Welcome to Books in Brief, where we explore the key ideas of great books and how to understand them in everyday life.
It is wonderful to be back. And today, we are diving into a problem that I suspect every single person listening has dealt with. Maybe even this morning.
Oh, I'm sure of it. It's that universal frustration, that friction that happens when you have smart, capable people in a room who just cannot seem to get on the same page.
It feels like you're speaking completely different languages.
Exactly. Or, you're trying to make this brilliant point and your colleague is just pacing around the room.
Or checking their phone or looking at the ceiling.
Yes, I've had that colleague, the one who needs to pace to think. And I have to admit, it used to drive me up the wall. I'm trying to focus, and they're doing laps around the table.
And your first thought is probably not very generous.
Not at all. I'm thinking, why are you being so difficult? Or, do you not respect my time? It feels personal.
It does. We immediately think it's a personality clash. We label them, oh, he's disorganized, or she's just too rigid. But the book we're talking about today says the problem isn't personality at all. It's processing.
Okay, that's a huge claim. The book is Collaborative Intelligence, Thinking with People Who Think Differently by Dawna Markova and Angie McArthur. And I think this core idea is just fascinating, that intelligence isn't a solo sport.
That's it, exactly. The authors argue that we've been stuck in what they call a market share mentality.
A market share mentality? That sounds competitive, like scarcity, my idea versus your idea.
Precisely. It's a deficit model. If I win, you have to lose. It's a fight for a finite piece of the pie. What they want us to do is shift to a mind share mentality.
Okay, and what's that?
That's the idea that if I understand how your brain works and you get how mine works, then 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It equals, 4. We can create something together that neither of us could have on our own.
That sounds incredible in theory, but we all know it's so hard in practice. And the authors use this really vivid analogy to explain why we fail at it so often. They talk about chickens.
Yeah, it's a great story. Apparently, chicken farmers used to think that chickens were just naturally aggressive, antisocial animals. They'd put them in these coops, and the chickens would just peck each other to death.
That's awful.
It was so bad that they would actually clip their beaks to stop the violence. They just assumed the chickens were wired to be mean.
So they blame the chickens?
He did. Until one farmer noticed something incredibly simple. The coops were dark. The chickens weren't fighting because they were aggressive. They were pecking at any movement because they couldn't see what was around them.
And as soon as there was a light source,
The pecking stopped.
and the metaphor here is that we are the chickens.
Sadly, yes. When we don't understand how our colleagues think, when we're pecking in the dark, we attack, we label, we dismiss. And collaborative intelligence, or CQ, is basically just turning on the light.
All right, so let's turn on that light. The book has 4 big strategies, but that first one, mind patterns, seems like it's the foundation for everything.
It really is. It's essentially the operating manual for your brain. The authors say we all process information in a very specific sequence. Now, we've all heard of, visual learners or auditory learners.
Sure, I need to see the diagram or just tell me what to do. I have heard some debate about whether those are, scientifically real, though.
And that's a great point. They aren't talking about learning styles in that old sense. They're talking about the sequence your brain needs to actually pay attention and metabolize information. And the science points to 3 states of attention: focused, sorting, and open.
Okay, let's break those down. Focused attention is pretty obvious. That's just concentration.
Right. Zeroing in. But then there's sorting attention. This is that middle state. It's where you're confused, you're grappling with the information, trying to make sense of it. It's like the mental version of chewing your food.
And then open attention.
That's the aha moment. That's imagination, innovation, where all the new connections are made.
And we can't just skip to the aha moment.
You can't. And here's the key. We all use different triggers to get into those states. The authors use the acronym VAK: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic.
Seeing, hearing, and moving or feeling.
Exactly. We all use all 3. But the order is like a combination lock. If you put the numbers in the wrong order, the locker just won't open.
The book has this fantastic example about a woman named Maria. I think this story really makes it clear because on the surface, Maria sounds like a nightmare to work with.
Oh, she really does. She was this high-level executive, brilliant, but her team thought she was completely checked out of meetings. She'd interrupt, doodle, she'd stand up and pace while people were presenting.
Which, in most offices, is a huge sign of disrespect. It's basically saying, I am not listening to you.
That's what her team thought. But when the authors analyzed her, they found her pattern was VKA, visual, then kinesthetic, then auditory.
Okay, so walk me through that. Visual first.
Yes. So to get into focused attention, to even start thinking, she needed a visual trigger. She had to be looking at a whiteboard or reading a memo. But then, to move into sorting attention, to actually process the data, she needed a kinesthetic trigger.
She had to move.
She had to move. That pacing wasn't a distraction, it was digestion. If you told her to sit still, her brain would literally get stuck. It couldn't process.
Wow. And the last piece was auditory.
Right. To get to open attention, to find the solution, she needed to speak. So she'd interrupt, not because she was rude, but because her brain had just solved the puzzle and she needed to say it out loud to complete the cycle.
That completely reframes everything. Because if I'm her boss and I tell her, Maria, sit down, be quiet, and listen, I'm basically shutting her brain down.
You're clipping her beak, you're keeping her in the dark. Once Maria understood this, she could just say to her team, hey, I'm just going to walk to the window for a second to think this through. And boom, the tension was gone. It wasn't Maria is rude. It was Maria is processing.
That's so empowering. But I imagine most of us have no idea what our own combination lock is.
We usually don't. We just know when we feel frustrated or stuck. The book suggests you look at when you feel in the zone. Do you need to talk an idea out to get it? You might be auditory first. Do you need to draw it on a napkin? Probably visual.
Okay, so once we understand how we think, we have to look at what we're good at thinking about. Which brings us to strategy 2, thinking talents.
This is the me part of the we. It's about where your brain naturally finds its energy. The authors lay this out in a 4-quadrant model.
So how does this differ from something like, say, Myers-Briggs?
It's a bit more focused on what gives you cognitive energy. So the first quadrant is analytic. This is the world of data, facts, logic. The core question here is why? Why is this true? Show me the proof.
I definitely know some of those. If you don't bring the spreadsheet, don't even bother showing up.
Exactly. Then often opposite them, you have the relational quadrant. These thinkers focus on people, feelings, morale. Their question is who? Who's involved? How will this make the team feel?
They're the team glue. Then you've got the procedural quadrant.
The how people. Logistics, process, sequence. They make sure the trains run on time. They love a good plan.
And the last one.
The innovative quadrant. The what-if people. They're always looking at the future, imagining new possibilities. They are often allergic to the details.
Now, here's the part that really hit me hard. The book talks about shadow attributes.
Yeah.
And I realized I do this constantly.
We all do. It's the source of so much conflict. A shadow attribute is when we look at someone else's talent through our own biased lens. We don't see the talent, we just see the annoyance.
Give me an example of how that works.
Okay, let's say you're a highly procedural thinker. You value order, reliability, you have a colleague who's highly innovative, and their talent is risk-taking.
Right.
You don't look at them and think, wow, what a great risk-taker. You look at them and think, that person is reckless.
Reckless, that's the shadow.
That's the shadow. Or flip it. The innovative person looks at the procedural person's talent for precision and calls them rigid or a nitpicker.
I see this all the time with relational versus analytic. The relational person is trying to build team spirit, and the analytic person just wants the facts. So the analytic person gets called cold or robotic.
And the analytic person calls the relational one fluffy or too sensitive.
So we're really just judging them for not being us.
Exactly. And the big shift in collaborative intelligence is realizing that the thing that drives you crazy about someone else is probably a resource you need.
So instead of judging their talents, I should be trying to trade with them.
Yes. If you're a big picture innovative thinker, you absolutely need a nitpicker on your team. You shouldn't be annoyed by their detailed questions. You should be grateful. You say, I'll handle the vision. You make sure we don't get sued. That is mindshare.
That feels like a massive relief, honestly. It means you don't have to be good at everything.
You can stop faking it in your blind spots and start using the actual genius of the people around you.
But there's a trap, right? Even if I know you're an analytic thinker, if I come at you speaking my flowery, innovative language, you're just going to shut down.
And that leads us to strategy 3, inquiry. Knowing the styles is not enough. You have to bridge the gap. And for that, the authors give us the inquiry compass.
The idea that the question you ask determines the answer you get.
And more than that, we tend to ask the questions we are good at answering, not the questions the other person is equipped to hear.
So let's use an example. I have an analytic boss. How do I use the compass to get through to him?
Okay, so the analytic quadrant cares about why and proof. If you go into his office and say, I have this amazing gut feeling about a new project and the team is so excited, that's all relational and innovative language. To him, it's just noise.
I'm triggering his "this is fluffy and reckless" alarm.
You are. The book suggests walking curiously. You have to start in their quadrant first. So you start with data. I've analyzed the Q3 market trends, and the data suggests a major gap here. Now he's listening. You've answered the why.
And then I can bring in my ideas.
Then you can bridge. You can say, based on that data analytic, I've developed a new concept, innovative, that I believe the team can execute, procedural. You speak their language first to earn the right to speak yours.
It sounds a little like manipulation.
I see it more as translation. I mean, if you go to France, you try to speak some French, right? It's a sign of respect. You're respecting their cognitive process.
That makes sense. It's just removing the friction so the idea itself can be heard.
Exactly. And it stops those meetings where everyone leaves totally confused. If you have a procedural person in the room, you have to end with how questions, what are the next steps, what's the timeline? If you don't, they'll leave feeling completely anxious.
Okay, so we have mind patterns, thinking talents, and inquiry. The last piece is about alignment. How do you get this whole diverse team pointing in the same direction?
This is where mindshare and future pull come in. It's about shifting the team's energy away from just problem solving and toward possibility finding.
What's the difference between deficit thinking and future pull?
Deficit thinking is looking backward at what's wrong. It's like, sales are down 10%. How do we fix it?
Which feels heavy, like a chore.
It's exhausting. It triggers our survival brain. Future pull, on the other hand, is about creating a vision of the future that's so compelling it pulls everyone toward it. Think about weight loss. I need to lose 15 pounds is deficit thinking. I want to be able to run a 5K with my colleagues is future pull.
One pushes you from behind, the other pulls you from the front.
Beautifully put. When a team gets stuck fighting, the leader needs to elevate the conversation to the future pull. What does it look like if we become the #1 company for customer service? Suddenly, that vision is big enough for everyone's talents.
It aligns all the different vectors. Instead of pecking at each other, everyone is focused on the same goal.
And it moves the dynamic from power over people to power with them. Collaboration isn't about forcing people. It's about inviting them to contribute their unique genius.
You know, before we wrap, there's this one really practical tool in the book I loved, the collaboration handbook.
Yes, it's like a user manual for yourself.
I think every team on the planet should do this.
I completely agree. The idea is simple. Every person on the team creates a one-page sheet. It lists my mind pattern, my top thinking talents, and my blind spots.
And you just hand them out.
You do. Imagine starting a new job and getting a stack of these. You'd know instantly, okay, Sarah needs the data first, and David needs to talk things through to process them.
It would save months of painful trial and error.
It creates psychological safety. It says, I'm not perfect. I'm a specific kind of thinker. Here's how you get the best out of me.
It brings us right back to the chicken coop. The collaboration handbook is the light switch.
It is. And I think the ultimate takeaway from collaborative intelligence is that we don't need to be the same to be unified. In fact, sameness is a huge liability. If everyone's an innovator, you get nothing done. If everyone's procedural, you're perfectly organized but going nowhere.
We need the friction, but it has to be productive friction, not the destructive kind.
That's it. Our differences are our greatest asset, but only if we have the intelligence to actually use them.
And I'll leave our listeners with one final thought. This isn't just for the office. Try walking curiously with your partner or your kids. You might find that what you thought was your spouse nagging you is actually their procedural talent trying to create a stable home for you.
Absolutely. It turns judgment into curiosity in every part of life.
Well, this has been a really fascinating look at how we can all think better together. It definitely makes me want to go figure out my own combination lock.
I think that's a great place to start. A little self-awareness can make a world of difference.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this brief exploration of the book, feel free to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future episodes. New book insights are coming soon. See you next time.